The 49ers have two more toys. What is it going to look like when Christian Kirk and Dre Greenlaw step on the field? We'll dive into the film and find out. What is good, everybody? Welcome to another Gold Standard podcast. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. That man is Johnny Dell from the Johnny Dell Football Academy. We are here on the demonetization station because we are going to break down 49ers film, and the NFL is going to come and take all of our money. Johnny, fun one today. Christian Kirk and Dre Greenlaw.
Yeah, these were guys, one we know a good bit about. It's always good to be reminded of what it was like having Dre and Fred out on the field together. And then Christian Kirk is a new toy for the 49ers on offense, a team that desperately needs some toys on offense.
Yes, and I think that it stabilizes, at least for 1 year, the wide receiver position in a way that God knows the 49ers did not have last year in a big, big way. We'll start with Christian Kirk. We'll get into Dre Greenlaw a little bit. Is Christian Kirk strictly a slot guy? Can they move him around? Can he do anything extra? Tell me about this new toy that we have here.
So my scouting report, I watched all 438 snaps of Christian Kirk with the Texans last year. It was a slog this week, but I do appreciate NFL Pro for their filtering on that, because you can put Christian Kirk in there and boom, it's going to show up all 438 snaps. My scouting report after watching all of his snaps is he's a guy with dynamic speed, can run away from almost anyone. If he's even, he's leaving. Mostly reliable hands, isn't afraid to make catches in traffic and go over the middle. Faster than quick, and if the defense doesn't leverage him right, he can burn them, and he brings stellar speed to the offense, an offense that very much needed it. The cons: struggles consistently working through contact and route running. Feet aren't as quick as his speed and can tip routes, taking too long to throttle down against good corners. Smaller frame doesn't shield quarterbacks from off-target or poor decision throws. He's not a separation creator in tight coverage.
Ooh, that last one kind of stings a little bit.
Yeah, and this is a thing that we'll look at a number of clips of those. You'll see that I think what they're looking at is, okay, we've got Mike Evans. That's our X. That's our guy that we can rely on in those situations. We've got Ricky Pearsall. We want to be that guy, somebody who can work on that on the concept side. We have a George Kittle that they're expecting to have back early. Jake Tonjes is a receiving tight end as well that could be a weapon there. You have Christian McCaffrey. You're going to put those guys as your primary load against tight press man coverage where the ball's got to come out quick, because that's the thing is, if it's a longer developing play and he breaks free, he's gone. But it's in that first 2 seconds when the defense is bringing the pressure, you got to get the ball out. I would tell you, CJ Stroud, Davis Mills very rarely targeted Christian Kirk in those situations. They didn't even look his direction. It's not that sometimes he was open a little bit. It's just clearly they liked Nico Collins as a big-bodied, big-time receiver. Jaden Higgins as a big-bodied, big-time receiver. They had Dalton Schultz as a big-bodied tight end. And even their other receiver, Xavier Hutchinson, is a bigger-framed guy with a lot of speed. So they had other guys for that role. The roles that they asked Christian Kirk to play, and what I'm interested to see if the 49ers use him in these same roles, was kind of dual. He was a speed slot guy. So that is running corner routes, running post routes, running seam routes, just really stressing safeties with that speed down the middle of the field. The other role is almost as a gadget role, similar to what we had with like Deebo Samuel playing out of the backfield, what Christian McCaffrey has been for the 49ers in the passing game. That's lots of choice routes, lots of drag routes, which for the West Coast terminology, that's a quick to the flat. So pretty much head straight to the flat. Lots of shallow crossing routes, over routes where they're going to sit over the ball at 5 yards, stick routes from the inside slants. That was a lot of what he ran when it wasn't, okay, we're looking to push safeties. So you'll see some similarities to the Christian McCaffrey route running tree. I have a section of that, and we also have the speed slot. So there's kind of dual roles there. I think this is interesting because it insulates the 49ers at two positions, because that's the Jacob Cowing role, where they wanted a guy who could be in the slot and provide tons of speed down the seam. and down those middles to threaten safeties. And it also provides somebody who understands exactly the same route tree that Christian McCaffrey runs. And he was also their motion guy. Like 90% of their motions was Christian Kirk. It was just when watching over 400 snaps, he probably went in motion 300 times. So he's their guy that they're moving around. And that's so, like the 49ers do with Christian McCaffrey, they'll bring him on one side, they'll bring him to the backfield, then they'll send him over to the right. They'll use bumper motion. They'll use cheat motion. They use all these motions. That's what the Texans did with Christian Kirk.
Well, he's in the right spot because God knows he's going to be in motion with the 49ers before the snap because that's what the Niners love more than anything. So, all right, let's dial it up here. Let's dive in. Here comes NFL. Take all our money. Go ahead. It's fine.
All right. So one thing, too, you can see here just from the all 22, you can see his size difference compared to other receivers. He is a smaller wide receiver, and that's where this kind of against tight coverage becomes an issue. You can see this is Jaden Higgins and this is Christian Kirk. And so you just see those are two very different body guys. And here's Nico Collins at the top. Here's Xavier Hutchinson. You see one guy is different than the others, and that's why they tend to go towards the other targets in tight coverage. But here this is going to be something I see him running with the 49ers. They're going to go hard play action. They're going to go hard play action to the left, run this little slide concept, roll CJ Stroud out. And then on this, a lot of times you run a corner route with this guy. Well, every once in a while you hit the corner post. So he makes it look like he's running to the corner and then he runs the post. We've hit this a number of times over the years. George Kittle had a big touchdown against the Packers in 2019 running this play. Deebo Samuel against the Texans in this play when Trey Lance started that year. We've hit this route a number of times. This is classic Shanahan. And you can see the speed, how it wins on this route. He's going to work vertical. There he gets the safety turned. All right, he's going to cut this and then watch this cut back, and he's going to whoop, and he gone. He is gone. And now it's a big time throw by CJ. That's across the body, but you can see the speed. It turns guys. It makes safeties commit. So it is a problem for it. You may see my son here sneaking into the picture. He's in my office with me. He's wondering what I'm doing. And dynamic speed, this is a rare time he aligned outside the numbers. He's going to run a little under route here. Just get the ball in his hand sometimes. If you get zone and you can get him running through these zones, he's going to get in here. This is Davis Mills. He gets the ball in his hands and then he takes off. And here's the ability, that speed, yards after catch. We were missing that element last year. So you see the speed element. Here he is to the middle. You're going to see him in the slot. They're going to bring him in motion. Like I said, they get a little coverage check, and they're going to run a sail concept. So they're going to run this clear out on the outside. He's going to run a deep out, and they're going to get a guy to the flat. This is a situation where the Chiefs are running like a quarters, half. And so it's quarters to that side. So he's facing a quarter safety. I like how he stems inside to work this safety, keep him down the hash so he can work outside. They're in press man on the outside is what this converts to. And this is what I mean. He doesn't have fear in here to go make this catch. I mean, he's headed right into a guy in fairly reliable hands. And he goes and makes that catch. So you get that speed to push vertical, get that safety. See. Okay, so now you're going to see him here. He's in the slot. They're going to do it, send him in motion again. Here we go. Motion him back and forth. You get a coverage check. So he's going to run a corner route here. He's going to stem inside and get a corner route. The Chiefs, they're going to bring a safety down on this. So they're coming with pressure. So they have a single safety up top. So what they want to do, they want to hit Christian Kirk here on this corner route, and he's gone. Like once he separates, he can create space and nobody's catching him. Oh, but CJ Stroud misses the throw. So unfortunate, but he was open. So we see him again here in the same. He's going to run the same thing, same coverage, corner route. So this is against the Steelers in the playoffs. You see him get in here and separate, boom, takes off. And now that speed runs away from guys and he makes a big time catch and they get an explosive because he's got that speed that once he's even with these guys, he's gone. Like he can get out there and go. You're going to see him here. He's going to run a through route, or he's right here. He's going to come in motion. And then he's going to run a through route here, and he will just run straight through the defense. Again, they're showing man coverage on this. He's just going to run a through route. This is classic 49ers through route or far pylon route, whichever way you want to look at it. He's just going to run right past these guys, and there's that speed. Boom, gone.
Do we think that Brock will be able to take advantage of that speed?
Yes. I mean, this is the exact same play, same throw that he made Deebo Samuel on this against the Seahawks. He ran right through this, and Brock launched this thing way out here, and Deebo got a touchdown. So this is the exact same throw, exact same route. It's a far pylon route. He's just going to run right through that defense and hit it. Actually, Brock probably hits him earlier on that. He throws it earlier. There was a lot of plays, and it's hard to show that I was like, oh gosh, Brock hits that, and the ball's out earlier. And instead, CJ's either throwing it away or he's forcing it into Nico, where you could see there was windows that would have been created. And knowing how Brock operates, I see, okay, this is a guy that if Brock sees that guy flat-footed on the other side, he's triggering the throw, and you're going to see a lot of really good options here.
And that's exactly what he said on that Deebo touchdown against Seattle. He said he saw Jamal Adams flat-footed, and that's why he threw it, because Deebo ran right past him, and it was a hell of a touchdown. Anthony Nagatani, YouTube channel member, says it's going to be great to see Kyle play with his new toys. I am excited about that. Mike Evans, Christian Kirk now. You got some new names in the mix. They're going to be in some big roles. I think that's going to, bring back a little of the sort of excitement that we were missing with the 49ers offense, especially like you said, with the yards after catch.
Yeah, it's just, the speed, dynamic ability after the catch, it was just gone last year. So here, when teams do this, a lot of teams will do this. They'll show this single high. They'll bring a guy down like he's going to help against the run, and then post snap, they're going to want to bail this out. You have a guy that you try and do that, and this Mike stays flat-footed. He's going to be able to rip down that seam, and this is a dangerous thing for a defense to leave there. This is Davis Mills in here. Boom, he puts this ball on him. He's gone. Davis Mills throws this, just out there. So it's a near miss. But again, we've seen Brock make these throws. He's killer over the middle. You hit this guy over the middle, and he's just going to split these safeties, and that's a touchdown. So you see that the speed is there, that if he gets behind guys, nobody is catching him. Then the other element that he brings is not just his ability to make catches and get open. So he's right here. What we've seen and what we struggled with specifically against the Seahawks is when teams are running Tampa, is they're going to run these safeties wide, and they're going to have a Mike down the middle. We could not get Seattle to pay for running this coverage and running this where they're going to have that Mike deep, their safeties wide, and keep everybody, force everything underneath. Just we couldn't take advantage of it. Mm-hmm. Well, now they just didn't respect our receivers. These safeties didn't sit here and bail out if a guy came down the middle. They were like, we trust somebody to run with whoever they got down the middle.
It'll be fine.
Yeah. So here you see the Chiefs are going to run Tampa, and watch what Christian Kirk's speed does when you have Tampa here and you have these safeties. These guys are going to all run with Kirk right down the middle. So you have one guy running down the seam is going to take you want to talk about taking the lid off the defense? That's what that guy does. So now you have 4 guys on 4 eligibles in coverage, in space. That is what you want to create, is a guy that can run that down the seam, and both safeties have eyes on him because they don't trust that this Mike can run with him. So it opens up everything for your defense. And here you get Jaden Higgins right over the middle in that vacated space. So that's where you're going to get Mike Evans. That's where you're going to get Ricky Pearsall. It's where you're going to get Demarcus Robinson getting the ball. Here you're going to see it against the Indianapolis Colts. Same thing. They're going to show this single high. They're going to back out into a Tampa, and watch what his speed, he's got the blue shoes, what his speed does down the seam. You're going to see the exact same thing. This isn't just the Chiefs. This is Tampa. This Mike's got to match that. And this guy, because he's running, was the safety. Safety says, I don't trust my Mike to get that. That guy's got crazy speed. So what do you have? You have these 3 guys are now occupied off of that one seam route. And so teams, when they want to run Tampa against us, This is now a tool you have to fight that. Is you put this guy down there. If they want to sit, if those safeties want to stay short, they want to sit on your underneath guys. Guess what? Now you're launching the ball out there, Christian Kirk on that mic down the middle of the field. So this should be a guy who opens up space for other players.
That's what I feel like we didn't get enough of in the past couple seasons. There wasn't a lot of space. Everything felt so difficult, right? It was like everything felt like a contested catch. There was no yards after catch. It was just like, oh, God, this is so, it didn't used to be this difficult. Now, hopefully, that'll take the burden off of everybody and make things easier for everybody. I've said it. I miss the yak in the offense, man. That was part of what made the team exciting, was like you get a completion and then the fun was just beginning. And then it was like, who knows what could happen after this play?
Yeah, it's exciting to think about, okay, how much more space does this create for Ricky Pearsall? How much space does this create for Christian McCaffrey, for George Kittle? Like we talked about it last year, that the only guy who was creating space on the offense was Christian McCaffrey, the only guy with gravity. Now you have somebody else that can create space. You have a Mike Evans that can create space. The thought of this, of going into this season, that you now have legitimate space creators for this offense. And they weren't a bad offense last year. They struggled. They were not up to par what they had been. But when you look league wide, they were still a good offense. It's really exciting. I get really excited about all this stuff.
It's hell. You watched over 400 snaps of Christian Kirk.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so now we're going to get into his second role. This is more as the gadget. So he's right here. They're going to motion this inside, and they're going to run a classic 49ers thing here. This is Shanahan to a T. This is what we run 10 times a game. They're going to run this corner route, and then this is Kirk. He's going to be on a choice route. So this is just simple. If they go over the top of the interference, you cut inside. If they stay inside the interference, you cut outside. This is Christian McCaffrey. He's run so many of these choice concepts, which is a corner route paired with the choice route. Christian McCaffrey probably run like 8 a game last year. I mean, it was just wild. We would run this. It was very much our man beater on one side. So here you're going to see now you can put Kirk in this role. So here he is reading this over. Here comes the corner route. He's going to say, okay, this guy's inside and he's going to work this. This guy tries to work way outside. And then he says, okay, now I'm cutting inside. And here's that speed to be able to catch it, whoop, and go get yards after the catch. I love it. Now you have another guy you can put in this role and who can burn teams with speed. So what are they going to do? They're going to run the same idea here. They're going to run this as a little influence and a clear route, and then he's going to run a choice route. So same idea here. He's running a choice again against the Raiders. And so you'll see here that he's comfortable running these. Okay, he stays outside. Boom, he sits down. They get him on the out, and now you can get a guy who he fights after catch. You will see that over and over again. He fights for yards after catch. Okay, now here's some more of that gadget stuff. They're going to motion him inside. Okay, we got the first motion. They got to have eyes on that. Then they're going to bring this guy, and they're going to fake a little reverse toss here, and they're going to bring him out, run along the backside, use that speed, get everything on the move, throws a little behind him, but guess what? He still makes it into the end zone for a touchdown. These are the things you get to do that you didn't have a guy who could have that speed on the move and do those kinds of things.
I like those plays down in the red area too. Like I call it easy. It's just it's a defined kind of thing. I always think of Andy Reid. I feel like he always has a bunch of those in his back pocket to just make, how'd they get this guy wide ass open? Just stuff like that. So if Kirk can help make it a little easier in the red zone, I'm all for that too.
And yeah, I mean, we needed as much help in the red zone. You always take more help in the red zone. So here he is. You're going to see him against his press. He's able to little stutter and go. And again, the ability to make yards after catch. This is what we've been missing.
Oof.
Get that little short crossing route and then roll for 30 yards afterwards because you got dynamic speed. Miss that, man.
So what you're saying is you want Brock Purdy to be accused of being a yak merchant this year. That would be.
I'm perfectly fine with that. So then you see him here against the Broncos. He's going to come in motion. They're going to run this same thing we just saw. Here's that corner and a choice route. Okay. So this is why I say I really envision him into that roll, that gadget roll that we used to have Debo run these things all the time, and Christian McCaffrey run these things all the time. This is a guy, you can plug him right into that role. He knows the entire route tree that you have there. This is going to be another classic Christian McCaffrey route. They bring him out here. He's going to run a little whip route. So he runs a choice out China. So this looks like a choice out, and then he's going to break it back inside. You get that paired with an under route here. And this is classic Shanahan sort of stuff here. Don't mind my son in the background playing with his Legos.
Nice.
Here it comes. And like I said, he's not afraid to make tough catches. You can get in there. Boom, makes some tough catches. So there's a lot to like about him. So we set everybody up with the good, and then we'll show the stuff that not so good.
Here comes Debbie Downer.
But there's a lot of things to be excited about and really like. But you don't have a guy who, wasn't top 3 on their team in targets without some issues. So this is Davis Mills against the Bills. He checks it into a play because he sees I got man coverage here. There's no safeties. So out here is going to be completely open because this guy's in here. So what they're going to do is they're going to run a little slant and then have Kirk on an out route. And this is where I say he kind of struggles working through some contact and winning out here. And it's just not a big window. It's not real open. They wanted to hit him on that. He gets some contact, doesn't really separate on that. And that's where he can struggle. This is what I was saying about sometimes his feet don't throttle down enough. So, and he tips his routes. They're going to run a little basic route here. They're going to run a little pull shallow. This is a situation he kind of left CJ Stroud out to dry on this. This route, he should be aiming this at the inside shoulder of this safety. The Chargers are going to be in quarters here. Minter ran a lot of quarters, and he just doesn't do a good job. He ends up kind of splitting these guys. The safety never gets threatened inside, so he just kind of squats, and he's reading it. And you'll see takes a little bit too long to throttle down here as the feeder, and he goes. So what's going to happen? The safety is going to jump this throw. CJ Stroud seeing this, he goes, okay, I have a window here. He breaks across. I got a window there, but takes too long to throttle down, and safety jumps it, and it gets picked. So I don't love him on these square in routes. That's not his ideal. Keep him on the move, speed cuts. No sharp cuts for this guy.
Well, when it takes that long and you got to kind of round it off like that, you leave windows open for defenders to make plays. That's funny though, but that's a little scary because if we get an injury in the wide receiver core, I feel like his role is going to have to change, and then they would be asking him to do some of those deeper in cuts.
Yeah, I feel like that's where, you rely on some of your depth of DeMarcus Robinson, you got Mike Evans, you have hopefully Jordan Watkins come along. I do believe they pick up another receiver, that you have a Jacob Cowing that hopefully will be healthy. Ricky Pearsall, those are all going to be guys that I think will be a little more adept at that. Here you're going to see, again, struggles to separate versus a press here. They're getting right up in his face. And he's just going to not ever really disengage from the press. He's trying, doesn't really disengage. And so, they end up going somewhere else. But you see throughout the whole route, he's not really disengaging. That's something you do see a number of times with him. Let me double check my notes here. I think I know what's happening here. Yeah. So he's going to run a little choice route out here. And again, physical coverage gets in there. The feet aren't super quick, even though he kind of is running short route and doesn't really get separation. And it's a tight window throw. I'm not real impressed with those kinds of routes. He's going to run a little out route here. He's in at the slot, and this is the same sort of thing. Feet aren't super quick. And so here he goes to break, and this guy's just going to jump this route. Reads his body language the whole time, never wins outside. And that's a dangerous throw. I mean, if that's put on target, that's probably a pick six. So he's not the guy I'm leaning on in those kinds of situations. Here, this is against the Jaguars. They're going to show heavy pressure. He's going to be a hot here. I would like to see him cross the face of his defender more, get inside, sit down, and protect your quarterback. Here, he doesn't do that. And this is where the smaller frame doesn't protect quarterbacks from bad throws or bad decisions. Mills is trying to get it out right away. He probably should be working this over on the other side. But because he doesn't have that big frame, this guy just cuts right in front of him, boom, and it's intercepted. So those are the kinds of negatives that you have there. If as long as you keep him out of those things, that you're not asking him to be that, then you can see the possibilities, the dynamic speed of the ability to run the route tree of the gadget guys, to get him on the move, get the ball in his hands. There's still a lot to like, but that's why he's getting the $6 million contract and not the $15 million contract.
That's exactly what I was going to say. There's a reason the 49ers were able to get him at the price point that they got him at, but that doesn't mean he can't be a valuable contributor. It just means that there are certain ways you have to use him, and it's up to the 49ers to maximize the things that he does well, right? He doesn't do everything perfectly. That's a bummer, but there's a place and a role for him. And more specifically, I think he adds more in the role that he'll have than Jauan Jennings added in the role that he had. And so I'm excited about that. Now, I don't know if he'll be as good in the red zone as Jauan was, but I think that adding that explosiveness and that gravity is going to not only help him. I mean, it's obviously good for him, but it's going to help everybody else too. And Jauan Jennings didn't have that gravity.
No, and neither did Demarcus Robinson, and neither did Kendrick Bourne. And so you look at this in a situation of, okay, let's just take a look back on last year. Mike Evans in the Jauan Jennings spot. That's a big upgrade to me. Even at Mike Evans's age, I think he's still faster than Jauan Jennings, and he's bigger and he's stronger and he's a better contested catch guy. Mike Evans has been a perennial 1,000-yard receiver. Jauan Jennings has never been a 1,000-yard receiver. And so I think you have an instant upgrade there. If you look at the Demarcus Robinson slot role, this is a big-time speed upgrade. This is a guy who you can do things with that you couldn't do with Demarcus Robinson. You couldn't put him in motion and try and just get the ball in his hands and let him do his thing with his speed. You couldn't do that with Demarcus Robinson. So it gives you more options in the red zone. It gives you an ability to threaten the middle of the field and push those safeties deep, which you didn't have with either Kendrick Bourne or Demarcus Robinson. And so I think no matter which way you slice it, this is still with Mike Evans and Christian Kirk are a big upgrade over what you got from Jauan Jennings, Demarcus Robinson, Kendrick Bourne.
It is going to be fun to watch. I'm just frustrated that we have to wait so many months to actually get to see it on the field. I think the Niners will probably be adding to that wide receiver room in the draft at some point. But either way, I think it's going to be more fun to watch this offense in 2026 than it was in 2025. Now, let's go to the other side of the ball. Dre Greenlaw, welcome back. We missed you. It's been a year. I have concerns about him being able to stay healthy, but if he does stay healthy, we know what he can do in this defense.
100%. And I think the 49ers have concerns about him staying healthy, which reflects in the contract he got. When I personally, and I put it out on X, and then I got hammered because I put it out there, and then 4 hours later, the 49ers re-signed him. Because what I said was, I know everybody's going to say, bring Dre back. My thought process was, I didn't think Dre was going to accept less than Levante David money. I didn't think he was going to accept Alex Anzalone money, which was $7.5 million. I thought he was going to want $9, $10, $11 million. I really did. I didn't think he was going to settle for a discount. And so when he signed at 7.5, I was like, okay, I can stomach that. I can't stomach 11 because he's missed 40% of his games in his career. That has always been the problem with Dre. 3 different seasons, he's missed more than 15 or 14 or more games in 3 seasons of his career. That's just hard to stomach. And then he's had another season where he missed half the games. That's not great availability, but when he's been on the field, this is the best linebacker duo in the NFL. When these guys are on the field, the struggle was that last couple of years for the 49ers, last year for the 49ers, he wasn't. And out of the last 5 seasons, he hasn't been very available. But this is a guy that can erase. He's over the middle. They're going to check this down to Kyron Williams, a dynamic running back, and watch him go run this down. He outruns D. Winters to this ball. D. Winters we saw was fast, but D. Winters is right here, and you're going to see Dre's going to come from farther away and be the one who makes the tackle because he had a dynamic speed and closing element that was just better. It was more sudden. So you're going to see, here's D Winters. He's trying to get out here. And you have Dre's already triggering on this throw. He's there and he's going to run it down and go swallow that tackle.
That's crazy.
That,
right in front of Winters.
I mean, that's the difference. It doesn't seem like a lot, but you see, if D doesn't get there, that ball is like a big gain because there's nobody else out here. And if he outruns D, this is a 30-yard gain. And so this was the difference sometimes between a 1-yard gain and a 30-yard gain for the 49ers, was that linebacker getting to that spot in time. You're going to see him right here. You're going to see he's incredibly assignment sound. Sometimes our linebackers just, they would attack and get out of their gaps too much. And they were just either guessing or slow on the trigger or uncertain or too aggressive in some things. And it led to too many plays that shouldn't have been there. Here, they're going to try and run this off the left side, their left side. And so there's a flow, but Dre stays home. He's going to wait for this. He says, I know they're going to want to cut this back. He knows this is coming in here. He's going to let Fred go attack. He's going to say, I'm going to wait backside because I trust Fred's going to get that. And so when he cuts, boom, there it is. And he makes the tackle. That's another play you didn't see us make last year, that it was just missing. These would be 12-yard runs against the Seahawks. This was missing last year. So there it is, a guy who can get it, trigger it, go make the tackle. That was missing.
Now, is this the what year is this from? Is this from 2024?
Yes, this is 2024. This was his first game back after the Achilles. Okay, so he was still not 100%. And this was the first game he'd played since the Super Bowl. So you would expect Dre to be even more healthy at this time. I mean, you can see his ability. He has that trigger to take on blockers, not get swallowed up. So he's going to take on this guard. He's going to come in and smash this. He's going to trigger run. He sees run. There's that fire. Okay, these guys coming in here, we didn't have that last year. You had Tatum Bethune and D Winters would sit here and they go, and then they'd fire, and then they'd fire. This trigger we didn't have last year against the run. So he's able to get in there, take on the guard, shed the guy off, press him off, and then get in here for the tackle. Gets in on the tackle. We were missing that last year. A dude who's a psycho who can be aggressive, violent against the run, to take these blockers on, don't get swallowed up by the blockers. Boom, there he is, separates, locates, and tackles. Great form tackle.
And I think the thing that you mentioned too a couple clips ago is important, is that the chemistry that he and Warner have. I think Fred was doing so much in terms of the communication and having to make sure everybody gets lined up and make sure everybody adjusts when people go in motion. And he can do it because he's amazing. But just to have one less guy where you're like, I know this guy knows what he's doing, I know this guy sees it the way I see it, is going to help. It's a nice little load off Fred's shoulders, and it's going to just make the defense better.
100%. You could see that with communication. Like there was one play in this game. I don't think I have it on here, but where you could see the offense made a shift and Fred adjust the line down. They were going to blitz through the weak side B gap. And so it was originally going to be Fred. Fred adjusts the line down and you can see Dre. He says, that's me now, right? And he looks over at Fred and he says, me. And he says, and Fred gives him the thumbs up and he blitzes through that B gap and they stuff the run. He didn't make the tackle, but you could see the communication. They knew what they were supposed to do. It wasn't like, hey, are we supposed to do this? You all right, bub? My son was playing around with the little bench over here and he just plopped down. But here, I mean, you see, this is somebody who can take on blockers. I think he's got longer arms than D Winters. I think that's a big deal. You know, the more you watch this, you see how much the 49ers love guys with long arms all across positions. They're going to bring a tight end up is what the Rams are going to do. And they're going to come kick out the end man on the side. Well, watch how he takes on this tight end. One, look at the leverage. He didn't attack vertically. He attacked toward the outside. So what's he going to do? He's going to keep his outside arm free, take on the tight end. That forces the running back inside to Fred Warner. This is textbook linebacker play. The running back can't come out here. He's going to make the tackle. So he tries to cut back in here. You got Fred coming in, making the tackle. This is beautiful team defense right there. And he still gets in there on the tackle. And you see these two guys together. You see the joy they have playing together.
I remember being so excited that Greenlaw was coming back in this game. And I remember when we were watching it thinking, this defense looks completely different than it had looked all year to that point. It was like night and day.
Yeah, it really was, especially when you went from Devondre Campbell to
Oh,
this.
God.
So this was the Devondre Campbell quit on the team game. But you see here again, they're going to run this little inside zone, and he's going to take this on, and there's the trigger, bang. I mean, the trigger against the run when he sees it, you see these guys fire away. That's Talo No Hufunga and Dre Greenlaw. Boom, there it is, and he just no hesitation goes and makes the tackle. That is the difference. Like, I know it seems like a small thing, but when you see it and you see what we did last year, that split second is the difference in the NFL between a 1 yard gain and a 6 yard gain. And that's just what we were missing last year.
The only question is health. How much can they get out of him? You know, I was talking with Vish about this on Monday, and Vish thought that maybe that Greenlaw would have sort of a lesser role than he's had in the past in an effort to kind of preserve him a little bit. Do you think that's a possibility?
I do think that's a possibility. I think they're gonna. I do think they still like D Winters. I think they want both these guys to push each other. They want this, Dre to look at this and say, "Look, you've got to stay healthy, because if you don't, we got a guy that we're gonna choose." This kind of reminds me of like Spencer Burford getting the guaranteed money last year. How it felt like that was the tipping point that between him and somebody else is the swing tackle. This is what this feels like, because you're putting him on a tipping point and saying, which guy are we going to look to bring back next year? Because D is going to be a free agent. And so they're telling these guys, one of you is going to be here next year, the other one isn't. So let's make this happen. Dre, if you can stay healthy, you will be with us. D, if you can, if he can't, you can do this, then you're there. You can see again the trigger to take on the blockers and not get swallowed up. He's going to fill this with such force on that tackle. It frees up. Now you have a defensive end one-on-one with a tight end, and he can go make the tackle. Dre's still getting in there. I love it. They're going to run a little tight end screen here. Watch what he does. I mean, this is just that, like what we were saying, that sometimes that psycho who can go blow things up. They're going to run this. Boom. He goes and blows up that wide receiver screen. This is a point that Sean McVay was probably pulling his hair out, right? Because they have a way to get this blocked up and get Puka Nacua with the ball in his hands running down. But Dre's going to hit this and just destroy Cooper Kupp and knock him into the tight end and blow the whole thing up.
And he makes
that
anyway.
That is a difference maker. Like, we didn't see that last year. Sometimes we absence makes the heart grow fonder of missing Dre Greenlaw. But here he's not even on the field. I'm going to show you something here that I saw in here. It just reminds you, like, why did you love Dre? Well, here he is down at the bottom. Okay. Watch him from the sideline. Here he is. Oh, play happens. He's getting into it. He's hitting these guys up. He's looking for Fred. He's fired up on the sideline. That's the guy you didn't have on the defense, who was just that dude.
This is the kind of film breakdown you get. You're not going to get on any other channel when we are spotlighting guys that are on the sideline during the play. That's the first time I think we've ever done that. Respect to you, sir.
Well, you look for everything on the film. Here, this is the stuff in coverage you didn't see a whole lot. So they're going to bring, I think Cooper Kupp goes in motion on this. Is what there he goes. And he's going to run a basic route. So they're going to run him up here, and he's going to run a basic route on this. They're going to run this on an out. Watch the way that Dre Greenlaw feels this route out. This is experience. This is understanding of who he's playing against. This route's going to bend inside. Matt Stafford's looking at this and thinking, okay, I got this throw. Fred Warner's shading to the other side. He stepped out. He's going to get behind Dre Greenlaw, and it's going to be there. You can see Stafford wants to make this throw, but Dre's feeling this out, and he's going to come work inside and take this away. That's the difference you have in coverage now. You have a guy who understands feeling, who understands the release, understands where the quarterback wants to go with the ball, understands where that receiver is going to be. This kind of coverage stuff we didn't see from D Winters last year. Now, they still get a big game because we got a little kerfuffle here happening with Demo and all this, but Dre Greenlaw's side, that is a coverage thing that we haven't seen. Now, this was a game. It was the second game he came back. I will say you could really tell, and this just proves how he knew his Achilles was not right. Watch how he favors his right leg throughout this whole process before the snap. You're gonna see him. He's kind of rolling that leg. He's not sure. He still goes and makes the tackle. But he went out, I think, after the first series or second series in this game. Clearly, the Achilles was not feeling 100% for him in this. You can see him. He's rolling that leg. He's trying to test it out. Something doesn't feel right. And then he still goes and makes the tackle, slips the guard. He left after one more play after this.
Oh, Dre. That's the frustrating thing. It's like, look how great he is, but maybe only for limited amounts of time. Now, the nice thing is, hopefully we won't be down to Garrett Wallow next year, you'd like to think. Hopefully, yeah. I mean, we haven't heard anything about Nick Martin, but I don't know. That's a scary situation. Who knows? I mean, with a concussion that's scary, that would cause me to think about whether I wanted to keep playing. So we'll have to see what's up with Nick Martin. Plus, he barely played, so we don't really know if he's any good anyway. But hopefully they can get enough out of Dre and Fred, because if they can, like you just showed, and like we have seen here, it adds so much. It changes the entire rest of the defense. It takes the pressure off the other levels of the defense as well. And it would be a welcome sight after some of the defense we've seen last year.
100%. He's a force multiplier on the defense. He's an eraser. He's somebody that can go with his range, clean up other things, that it makes just your entire defense better. And you think about how much the defense looked different that year. Now you have some big hogs like Osa Odigizua in front of him, and Alfred Collins in front of him, and CJ West in front of him. These big hogs who are going to soak up even more attention from that offensive line. You get a Michael Williams playing on the edge, who is dominant versus the run. You have, hopefully Nick Bosa is going to be there and healthy. It is a little concerning after 3 ACLs now, but he's going to be here for a while. They just gave him more signing bonus and everything to create more cap space. But it really does tell you, I don't think the 49ers are as far off from a great defense as we think. So much of it last year was truly the injuries, and it was truly not having your dogs out there. The drop off from Fred Warner to Tatum Bethune was a gulf. And so getting Fred back is an improvement. Getting Bosa back is an improvement. Getting Michaels back is an improvement. Getting Collins and West a full offseason improvement. Malik Mustafa, people have to remember, Malik Mustafa has not had a true offseason. He had the offseason he was drafted, so he missed half of the offseason, and he went into the rookie OTAs and mini camps and everything, and then went through training camp, and he went through that year, and he flashed really well. Well, then the next year he was learning Saleh's defense, and he was rehabbing from his ACL the entire year. He missed all the offseason. He missed all of training camp. He missed half the season. Malik Mustafa, this is the year to show me, you're getting a full offseason. I want to see if you can take another step and become a dynamic safety that you've shown the physical skill set to have. You've got to go prove it and be that guy. Marquis Siegel, same thing. You're going to get a full offseason. I'm not sold on Jair Brown. I think we've seen the limits of Jair Brown. He's gotten the full off seasons. I haven't seen improvement. So I think they're not as far off as we think from being a top 5 defense. But as we've said, you have a Dre who's missed 40% of his games. Can this be one of the outlier years where he is healthy for most of the season?
I know Vish was screaming from the mountaintops last year that if they had their healthy guys, it was going to be a top 5 defense. He was all about it, especially, once we got to see early on, some of the play of Michael and Alfred Collins. We know it didn't come out that way, but I think your point about the off seasons is a good one. Marquis Siegel, another guy hey, at points he flashed. Let's see if he can do it again too. So there's definitely a reason for optimism. I keep pointing this out, that most of the people on this defense are super young. I know that people think of the offense as old and the Niners as old. The defense isn't really old. So let's see who can take steps forward, and we will be here with you breaking it down, good, bad, or ugly, hopefully more good than bad. If you want more film breakdown, check out the Johnny Dale Football Academy on YouTube. It has a ton of good stuff for you. Definitely should be one of the stops you make every single day. Johnny, thank you so much. I'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good. Thank you.